Chen Bolin's journey is unlike that of most actors in Asia. From a quiet childhood in Taipei to international stardom, his career has been built on discipline, mystery, and undeniable talent. While his roles in films and dramas won hearts across Taiwan, China, and Korea, the man himself remained an enigma, fueling endless rumors, controversies, and speculation. Yet behind the gossip lies a story of resilience, choices, and the price of living in the public eye. Stay tuned as Criminal Tracks uncovers the untold life of Chen Bolin, where fame, secrecy, and survival collide in unexpected ways. Chen Bolin was born in Taipei in 1983, a time when Taiwan's entertainment industry was beginning to make its mark on the wider Asian stage. He grew up in a modest household, far from the spotlight that would eventually surround him. There were no signs in his early years that he would one day become an international name. Yet as a teenager, he stood out for his striking looks and natural charisma, qualities that quickly caught the attention of modeling scouts. By the time he was in his late teens, Chen was already entering photo shoots and advertisements, quietly stepping into a world that would soon define him. His first significant break came not in television, where most Taiwanese actors of his generation started, but in film. In 2002, at just 19 years old, he appeared in Blue Gate Crossing. The film was a delicate story of youth, identity, and unspoken emotions, and it resonated far beyond Taiwan's borders. Critics praised the movie, and Chen's presence on screen was noticed by both local and international audiences. The film itself traveled to international festivals, and while it was the story that won hearts, Chen emerged as a promising young actor with an unusual blend of sensitivity and quiet strength. The success of that early film opened doors. In the years that followed, he moved steadily through the Taiwanese entertainment industry, balancing smaller projects with roles that steadily grew in importance. Unlike some of his contemporaries who sought to dominate the tabloids with flamboyant lifestyles, Chen cultivated an image of calm professionalism. He seemed to understand that while youthful fame could be intoxicating, it was the long game that mattered. His decision to avoid scandal in those early years was not accidental. It was a conscious choice to remain grounded, to let his work speak louder than headlines. As television dramas began to dominate Asia's cultural exports, Chen stepped into that world as well. His early television roles were carefully chosen, showcasing his range and allowing him to connect more directly with the everyday viewer. While film had given him prestige, it was television that would make him a household name. By the late 2000s, his face was recognized not only in Taiwan, but increasingly in mainland China, where the market was exploding with opportunities. The turning point came in 2011 with the drama In Time with You. Starring alongside Ariel Lin, one of Taiwan's most beloved actresses, Chen played the male lead in a story that redefined the modern romance genre. The show explored the bittersweet nature of friendship evolving into love, and Chen's portrayal of Li Daren struck a chord across Asia. His performance was understated yet deeply moving, carrying an authenticity that won him critical acclaim and an outpouring of fan devotion. The series became a cultural phenomenon, and suddenly, Chen Bolin was no longer just a promising actor. He was a star. The impact of that drama cannot be overstated. It elevated him into a league of actors who could headline productions, draw audiences, and influence trends. His chemistry with Ariel Lin was so convincing that rumors of a real-life romance spread like wildfire, though both actors denied it. Still, fans clung to the fantasy, and the press fueled the speculation at every turn. For Chen, the drama marked both a professional triumph and the beginning of his lifelong struggle with media intrusion into his personal life. During these years, he remained remarkably disciplined in how he handled his newfound fame. He avoided reckless spending sprees or ostentatious displays of wealth, which often doomed other young stars. Instead, Chen invested in himself, refining his craft and taking on roles that stretched his abilities. He worked in projects that balanced mainstream appeal with artistic credibility, careful not to be boxed into one category. He was equally convincing as the quiet romantic lead, or the conflicted young man facing moral dilemmas. This versatility made him one of the most dependable actors of his generation. His reputation as the boy next door was not only tied to his acting roles, but also to his demeanor off-screen. Fans admired his down-to-earth personality and the way he seemed almost shy in public appearances, as though fame was something he endured rather than sought. He often deflected personal questions in interviews, choosing to speak instead about his work or his admiration for fellow actors. This humility became part of his brand. For many, he represented an alternative to the brash, attention-seeking celebrities who dominated headlines. At the same time, Chen cultivated personal interests that gave him depth beyond acting. Photography, art, and travel became passions that he occasionally shared with fans. These pursuits reinforced the idea that he was thoughtful and introspective, qualities that made him relatable to audiences who longed for authenticity in a world of carefully manufactured celebrity personas. He was not chasing controversy or desperate for attention. He seemed instead to be chasing meaning. By the end of the first decade of his career, Chen Bolin had achieved what many in Taiwan only dreamed of. He was respected by critics, adored by fans, and recognized across multiple markets. He had built a reputation not just as an actor, but as an artist, someone who valued craft over spectacle. The combination of film credibility and television popularity placed him in a rare position of influence. And yet, beneath the polished surface, the very qualities that earned him admiration, his privacy, his independence, his refusal to play by certain media rules, would also sow the seeds for the controversies and challenges he would face in the years to come. Chen Bolin's rise to stardom after In Time with You positioned him as one of Taiwan's most bankable actors, but it also opened a gateway to greater ambitions. Taiwan's entertainment industry was respected, but limited in scale, and the most lucrative opportunities were in mainland China and South Korea. For an actor like Chen, who already had an international fan base thanks to Blue Gate Crossing and his breakout television success, expanding across borders seemed like the natural next step. It was not an easy transition though, because while his reputation as a versatile actor traveled with him, so did the expectations and scrutiny that came with it. He began by accepting roles in Chinese films and dramas, carefully navigating the differences between Taiwan's relatively relaxed production environment and the far more regulated world of mainland entertainment. His performances were well received, and gradually, his name became more familiar to Chinese audiences. Unlike some Taiwanese actors who struggled to adapt, Chen managed to strike a balance between retaining his unique identity and adjusting to the mainland system. This balancing act became both his strength and one of the flashpoints for controversy. In 2015, Chen Bolin signed with BM Plus Entertainment in South Korea, an unusual move for a Taiwanese actor at the time. It signaled his ambition to compete in one of Asia's toughest markets, where idol culture dominated and foreign actors often faced significant challenges. His collaboration with Korean stars like Ji-hyo on the variety show We Are in Love gave him exposure to millions of new viewers. The pairing quickly became a talking point, with fans obsessing over their on-screen chemistry. Just as with Ariel Lin years earlier, rumors swirled about whether the on-screen romance hinted at something real behind the scenes. The speculation was relentless, yet Chen refused to provide clarity. His strategy of silence only intensified the gossip, creating a mystique that kept his name in circulation. Working in Korea also brought him into contact with Haod and other big names, further raising his profile in the region. This cross-border career trajectory was unusual for Taiwanese actors, who typically focused on either domestic productions or mainland projects. Chen's willingness to experiment with different markets highlighted his adaptability, but it also spread him thin. He was no longer just managing one image in one country. He was juggling multiple public perceptions across Asia. Each market interpreted his actions differently, and his careful approach to privacy sometimes backfired, with fans or tabloids accusing him of being evasive or emotionally distant. The most persistent controversies during these years centered on his personal life. Chen Bolin has long been regarded as one of Taiwan's most eligible bachelors, and with that status came endless speculation about his relationships. Tabloids linked him to a string of actresses and co-stars, from Ariel Lin to Song Ji-hyo and beyond. Each new project seemed to spark a fresh wave of rumors. To his credit, Chen never capitalized on the gossip for publicity, but neither did he go out of his way to deny every headline. This created a cycle where mystery became part of his brand. Still, some media outlets criticized him for feeding the rumor mill by refusing to set the record straight. In Taiwan, this aura of mystery often worked in his favor, strengthening his appeal. In mainland China, however, the press could be less forgiving. His comments about Taiwan's creative freedom compared to the rigid controls of mainland productions ignited controversy. While his words may have been intended as an honest reflection on artistic differences, some interpreted them as politically charged. In a climate where cross-strait relations were tense, even mild remarks could spark backlash. Online discussions quickly escalated, with some netizens accusing him of being disrespectful to the mainland industry. The situation did not reach the level of career-ending scandal, but it cast a shadow over his image in China and demonstrated the precarious tightrope he had to walk. This controversy highlighted a broader challenge faced by many Taiwanese entertainers. To succeed in the mainland market, they often had to navigate political sensitivities with extreme caution. Chen, who valued authenticity and straightforwardness, found himself in a position where even carefully chosen words could be weaponized. His fans defended him, arguing that he was merely speaking about creativity, not politics. But the incident revealed how vulnerable his career was to interpretation. For someone who had always tried to keep his private life shielded, this sudden exposure to political debate was an unfamiliar and uncomfortable terrain. Despite these challenges, Chen continued to collect accolades for his work. His performances were recognized with awards, proving that his talent remained undeniable even as controversies swirled. He was versatile enough to move between romantic dramas, action-oriented films, and more nuanced roles that required subtlety and emotional depth. This range kept him in demand, though the rise of younger, flashier actors meant he was no longer the sole center of attention. Still, his established reputation gave him longevity that many of his contemporaries lacked. Another aspect of Chen's career that fueled discussion was his relationship with the press. Some journalists described him as charming and thoughtful, while others accused him of being aloof or even arrogant. His reluctance to share details about his personal life, coupled with his sometimes reserved demeanor at press events, led to speculation that he looked down on the media. Fans saw this as part of his quiet, introverted personality, but critics suggested it was a calculated move to control his public image. In truth, it may have been a little of both. He was fiercely protective of his privacy, but he also understood that the less he revealed, the more the public speculated. By the late 2000s, Chen Bolin was at a crossroads. He had conquered Taiwan, made strong inroads into mainland China, and tested the waters in South Korea. His name carried weight across the region, but the pressures of maintaining this international presence were immense. Every statement he made could be dissected in multiple languages. Every co-star he worked with could become the subject of fabricated romance rumors. Every attempt to carve out creative independence risked being misinterpreted as arrogance or political commentary. It was during this period that Chen's carefully maintained balance began to show cracks. While he had never been embroiled in the kinds of destructive scandals that derailed other celebrities, there were no arrests, no gambling or drug controversies, no explosive feuds. His battles were quieter, but no less significant. They revolved around perception. How much of his true self he was willing to reveal? How much of the media's narrative he was willing to accept? and how much of his career he was willing to risk for the sake of honesty. What made Chen Bolin stand out was not only his ability to adapt to different markets, but also his refusal to fully conform. He pushed into new territories, collaborated with stars from different cultures, and carried with him an image of mystery that both captivated and frustrated the public. Yet this approach, while distinctive, came with its own set of challenges. The very privacy that protected him also left gaps for rumors to fill. The very honesty that endeared him to some fans could appear careless in the eyes of critics, and the very independence that gave him longevity sometimes left him isolated in an industry that thrived on constant visibility. By the time the second decade of his career was underway, Chen Bolin had become both a respected figure and a controversial one. His successes across Asia were undeniable, but so were the whispers about his personal life and the debates over his comments. It was clear that his career was no longer just about acting. It had become a delicate dance between art, image, and the shifting expectations of an audience that demanded both mystery and transparency. The years ahead would test whether his strategy of selective silence could still work in an industry that thrived on constant exposure. Chen Bolin's reputation as one of Taiwan's most enigmatic stars only grew stronger as the years went on. While many of his peers made headlines for flashy romances, business scandals, or reckless behavior, he stayed out of the most dangerous pitfalls. Yet, his determination to live privately also meant that speculation about his personal life never really stopped. Despite countless rumors of relationships with co-stars, Chen never confirmed any of them. To this day, he is widely seen as one of the industry's most eligible bachelors, and this status keeps tabloids and fans alike guessing. In some ways, the mystery surrounding his love life has become just as much a part of his identity as his acting career. Beyond the gossip columns, Chen focused on cultivating a life that reflected his passions. He became known for his love of photography, art, and travel, often sharing carefully curated glimpses of his adventures on social media. His posts rarely revealed intimate details, but instead captured moods and atmospheres, reinforcing the image of an introspective artist rather than a celebrity chasing attention. This lifestyle endeared him to fans who admired his independence, though it also fed criticism from some quarters of the media that painted him as distant or disconnected from the fast-moving world of modern celebrity culture. Financially, Chen Bolin's career rewarded him with stability. Between acting, modeling, and endorsement deals, he amassed significant wealth. Reports often mention properties in Taipei, along with investments that reflect his interest in creative ventures rather than pure profit-making. Unlike stars who flaunted luxury cars or extravagant shopping sprees, Chen's wealth was quietly managed, furthering his reputation for discipline. He seemed to care less about projecting opulence and more about creating a sustainable life that would outlast the volatile rhythms of fame. Yet the industry around him was changing. The surge of younger actors with massive online fan bases began to dominate screens, leaving veterans like Chen with the challenge of staying relevant. His career, once at its peak with In Time With You, seemed to plateau as new names captured the spotlight. Some critics argued that his reluctance to aggressively market himself or reinvent his image made him less visible compared to others. While his loyal fan base remained strong, his presence in mainstream entertainment began to feel quieter. The very qualities that once made him unique, his mystery, his privacy, his selectiveness, now risked being interpreted as fading relevance in an age where constant exposure drives popularity. Still, Chen Bolin retained something that many newer stars lacked: respect. He had never been tainted by the kinds of scandals that could destroy a career overnight. There were no stories of criminal behavior, no addiction dramas, no public meltdowns. In a world where celebrity culture often devoured its own, Chen stood apart as someone who managed to endure without losing dignity. Even when controversies did arise, such as his remarks about Taiwan's creative environment or his silence in the face of persistent rumors, he handled them without escalating the drama. He had built a reputation for composure, and that consistency gave him credibility in a notoriously unstable business. The question that hovers over his career today is whether Chen Bolin can reinvent himself for a new era of entertainment. Streaming platforms and digital media have reshaped how stars connect with audiences, and younger actors who thrive on constant interaction dominate the landscape. For Chen, who has always kept a certain distance, the challenge is steep. Yet his history suggests that he is not someone easily written off. His talents remain sharp, and his loyal supporters continue to believe in his ability to surprise them with new roles and directions. On a personal level, Chen continues to face the paradox of fame he has lived with since his early 20s. His refusal to conform to tabloid expectations has protected him, but it has also created a vacuum filled by endless speculation. His wealth and stability allow him the freedom to live on his own terms, but the industry pressures him to stay visible. His artistry and independence win him respect, but they also risk making him seem detached from the frenzy of modern stardom. What remains undeniable is that Chen Bolin has carved out a path unlike most of his contemporaries. He has endured for more than 2 decades in a fiercely competitive industry without succumbing to its most destructive tendencies. He has remained true to his own values, even when they clashed with expectations. And he has proven that it is possible to build a career not just on hype or controversy, but on steady talent, careful choices, and personal integrity. For audiences who grew up watching him in Blue Gate Crossing and later in Time with You, Chen represents both nostalgia and resilience. He is a reminder of an earlier era of Taiwanese entertainment while still being present in today's scene. His life may not be the most scandalous, but in its own way, it is just as compelling. A story of a man navigating fame on his own terms, facing the challenges of relevance, and holding on to a sense of self in an industry that constantly demands more. Chen Bolin has never been the loudest star, nor the most scandalous, but his story proves that silence can be as powerful as words. His ability to endure fame without being consumed by it sets him apart in an industry built on exposure. While questions about his future remain, his legacy as one of Taiwan's most intriguing and resilient actors is undeniable. What do you think? Is Chen Bolin a master of his own image or a victim of endless speculation? For more untold stories of Asia's biggest stars, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Criminal Tracks.